3 months after the Battle of Sol, representatives from dozens of species gathered on Earth for the first meeting of the Galactic Council. The Great Assembly Hall in Sol had been built specifically for this historic moment, with seating designed for beings of all shapes and sizes. Ambassador Han Seok-jin stood at the center of the hall, looking out at delegates who had traveled from across the galaxy. Some had been enemies just months before. Others had been slaves under the Empire for centuries. Now they were all equals, working together to build something new. "Friends," Ambassador Han said in his opening speech, "we gather here not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in creating a better future for all our peoples." In the front row sat former Supreme Fleet Admiral Korthak. The proud Velthak warrior had requested to attend the council meetings as an observer. The defeat at Sol had changed him in ways he was still trying to understand. "Ambassador," Korthak said when given permission to speak, "my people have ruled through strength for 1,000 years. We do not understand this idea of cooperation. How can the strong work with the weak?" Captain Park Jin-woo, now serving as Earth's military advisor to the council, stood to answer. "Admiral, you assume there are strong and weak species. We have learned that every species is strong in different ways. Your people are great warriors. Others are great scientists, artists, or builders. When we combine all our strengths, we become stronger than any empire." The council chambers buzzed with translation devices as dozens of languages were converted into forms that all species could understand. For the first time in galactic history, no single language was declared superior to others. Dr. Kim So-ra had been chosen to head the new Technology Sharing Council. Her job was to help all species benefit from advances in science and engineering, rather than hoarding knowledge for military advantage. Under the old empire, Dr. Kim explained to the delegates, new technology was kept secret and used as a weapon. In our new galaxy, knowledge belongs to everyone. When one species learns something new, all species benefit. The transformation had not been easy. Many Empire loyalists had fought against the changes, and some regions of the galaxy were still in chaos. But slowly a new order was emerging. Commander Jang Yuna now led the Galactic Intelligence Service, which worked to prevent conflicts between species rather than spy on them for military advantage. Her agents were peacekeepers and mediators, not assassins and saboteurs. The old intelligence services existed to give one group power over others, Commander Jang told the council. Our service exists to help different groups understand each other and resolve their differences peacefully. Not everything had changed overnight. Admiral Yoon Hee-jin still commanded what remained of the Imperial fleet. But now she worked alongside human commanders to patrol trade routes and protect peaceful worlds from pirates and raiders. "It is difficult," Admiral Yoon admitted to Captain Bae-jun Seo during a joint patrol near the Andromeda border. "My whole life I was taught that ruling others was natural and right. Learning to serve alongside them instead of above them requires adjustment." Captain Bae nodded sympathetically. "Change is hard for everyone, Admiral. But look at what we have accomplished together. Your ships and ours working as partners have ended more conflicts in 3 months than the Empire ended in 3 years. The most dramatic changes were happening on worlds that had been oppressed under Imperial rule. On the mining planet Kepler 442b, former slaves were now partners in managing the mining operations. Production had actually increased because workers who had a stake in the results worked harder than those who labored under threat. Engineer Lee Yo-jin had established the new Galactic Engineering Corps, bringing together the best minds from every species to work on projects that benefited everyone. Their first major success was developing clean energy technology that could end the resource wars that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. "When we share knowledge instead of hoarding it," Lee explained to a gathering of young engineers from 20 different worlds, "we solve problems faster than any one species could alone." The children were perhaps the most visible sign of the new order. In parks across Earth, young beings from dozens of species played together, learning each other's games and languages. What had once seemed impossible, different species living in harmony, was becoming natural for the next generation. General Go Yoon-woo had been appointed as the first Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, a military organization dedicated to protecting all species rather than conquering them. Her forces included former Empire officers working alongside former rebels, united by a common purpose. "We do not fight for territory or resources, General Go told her Mixed Species Officer Corps. "We fight to protect the right of all beings to live in freedom and peace." The Empire still existed, but it was no longer an empire in the old sense. The Altarian homeworld had become the center of a confederation of worlds that chose to work together, rather than being forced to obey a single ruler, Emperor Zaltek. The former absolute ruler of the galaxy now served as an elected coordinator for the Altarian Confederation. The transition had been humbling for him, but he had come to see the wisdom in the human approach. "For 500 years, we ruled through fear," Emperor Zaltek said during his first address as an elected leader. "We convinced ourselves that this was natural and right. The humans have shown us that cooperation is not only possible, but more effective than domination." Captain Oh Sang-min now commanded the Galactic Patrol Service, which maintained peace along the trade routes that connected thousands of worlds. His ships were welcomed in ports that had once been closed to outsiders, and piracy had nearly disappeared as former raiders found legitimate work. Admiral Song Ji-hoon had established the Galactic Strategic Academy, where military officers from all species learned new approaches to conflict resolution. The Academy's motto was strength through unity, and its graduates became leaders in the new galactic order. The economic changes were just as dramatic as the political ones. Commander Ryu Mi-young now coordinated trade agreements that benefited all parties, rather than enriching only the strongest. Worlds that had been impoverished under Imperial rule began to prosper as they gained access to galactic markets. Lieutenant Shin Dong-wook had become the youngest captain in the new Galactic Defense Force, commanding a ship with a crew that included members of 7 different species. His vessel, the Unity's Dawn, patrolled the frontier regions where new species were still being discovered and welcomed into the galactic community. The transformation was not complete, and probably never would be. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still those who preferred the old ways of domination and submission. But the direction of change was clear. On the first anniversary of the Battle of Sol, Ambassador Han stood before the Galactic Council to deliver his annual address. The hall was packed with representatives from over 100 species, many of whom had never spoken to each other before the humans showed them a new way. 1 year ago, Ambassador Han said, "The galaxy was ruled by fear. Today it is guided by hope. We have not created a perfect civilization. Perhaps no such thing is possible, but we have created something better than what came before." In the audience, former Admiral Korthak listened to words that would have seemed like madness just a year earlier. Now they seemed like simple truth. Strength did not come from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to turn enemies into friends. As the council session ended, beings from dozens of worlds gathered in small groups to discuss trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and joint scientific projects. The galaxy buzzed with activity as species that had been isolated for centuries began to share their knowledge and resources. Captain Park Jin-woo stood at the window of his hotel room, looking out at the streets of Seoul where children from a dozen worlds played under the protection of peacekeeping forces that included former enemies working side by side. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was better than what had come before, and it would continue to get better as long as beings of goodwill chose cooperation over domination. The age of empire was over. The age of community had begun, and throughout the galaxy, in ways large and small, the human idea that all beings deserved freedom and respect was taking root and growing into something beautiful. 2 weeks later, the largest war fleet in galactic history arrived at the Sol system. Supreme Fleet Admiral Korthak commanded over 10,000 warships, including the Empire's most feared weapon, the Star Destroyer Galaxy's End. This massive vessel was designed to destroy entire solar systems. Supreme Fleet Admiral Korthak was the Empire's greatest military leader. He had conquered more worlds than any general in history. His four-armed species, the Veltak, were natural warriors, and he had never lost a battle. "Admiral Yoon," he said as his ship took position at the center of the massive fleet, "you have embarrassed the Empire. I am here to correct your failure." Admiral Yoon looked at the tactical displays showing the enormous Imperial fleet. "Sir, the humans have technology we do not understand. I recommend caution." "Caution?" Admiral Korthak laughed with all 4 of his mouths. "I have brought enough firepower to destroy 100 star systems. These primitive humans will be crushed like insects. But the humans had not been idle during the Empire's preparations. Admiral Kang Hye-won stood in the command center of the hidden fortress that had once been Mars. The red planet had been completely transformed into a massive military shipyard and weapons platform, Admiral, her aide reported. Our scouts report the Empire fleet has arrived. They have brought everything they have. Admiral Kang smiled grimly. Good. It is time they learned what we have built. Throughout the Sol system, human defenses that had been hidden for centuries began to reveal themselves. Jupiter's moons opened like flowers, showing weapon platforms larger than most Empire ships. Saturn's rings were revealed to be made of millions of automated defense drones. Even the asteroids between Mars and Jupiter were actually camouflaged military stations. Captain Oh Sang-min commanded the stealth forces that had been moving through Empire space for days. His ships had been striking at Imperial supply lines and communication relays, causing confusion and fear throughout their fleet. Captain Oh to Admiral Kang, he reported from his hidden position behind Neptune. Empire supply ships have been neutralized. Their fleet is running low on fuel and replacement parts. Commander Ryu Mi-young coordinated the planetary defense grids from her command post on Earth's moon. The entire Sol system had been turned into one massive weapons platform, with Earth at its center like a jewel in a crown of steel. All defensive positions report ready, she announced. We can defend every planet, every moon, every space station simultaneously. The most amazing discovery was revealed when engineer Lee Yo-jin activated the new gravitational manipulation systems. Human ships began to move in ways that defied physics, bending space around them and creating artificial gravity wells. Admiral Korthak, she broadcast on all frequencies. Welcome to the Sol system. You are about to see what humans can accomplish when we work together. The space around the human ships began to ripple and bend. Some vessels seemed to exist in multiple places at once, while others disappeared entirely before reappearing behind Empire ships. Admiral Korthak watched his sensors try to track the human vessels and fail completely. How are they doing this? His science officer, a brilliant member of the Zephyrian species, studied the readings with 6 eyes wide in amazement. Sir, they appear to be manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. Our weapons cannot lock onto targets that exist partially outside our reality. The battle began when Admiral Korthak ordered his fleet to attack. 10,000 Empire ships opened fire simultaneously, creating a display of destructive power that could be seen from distant star systems, but their weapons struck empty space. The human ships had moved into higher dimensions, existing just outside normal space-time. The Empire's most powerful weapons passed harmlessly through targets they could not truly touch. Captain Park Jin-woo appeared on communication screens throughout the Empire fleet. Admiral Korthak, you are fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's weapons. We have moved beyond your understanding. Impossible, Admiral Korthak roared. No species is more advanced than the Empire. Every species is more advanced than the Empire in some way, Captain Park replied. You just never bothered to listen to them. The human counterattack was swift and precise. Ships that had seemed defenseless moments before revealed weapons that could strike across impossible distances. Quantum torpedoes phased through Empire shields and disabled ships without killing their crews. Lieutenant Shin Dong-wook coordinated the weapons systems across the entire human fleet. His targeting computers could track thousands of Empire ships simultaneously and disable them with surgical precision. Captain, he reported, Empire Formation Alpha 7 has been neutralized. All ships disabled, no casualties. This was the most shocking thing about the human attack. They were winning completely, but they were not killing their enemies. Every Empire ship that was hit was disabled, not destroyed. The crews were left alive but helpless. Admiral Korthak watched in horror as his massive fleet was systematically taken apart by an enemy that refused to kill. It was humiliating in a way that simple defeat could never be. Why? He demanded over the communications. Why do you not destroy us? Admiral Song Ji-hoon appeared on the screen. He was the human fleet's supreme tactical commander, a quiet man with eyes that seemed to see everything. Because we are not you, Admiral Song said simply. We do not wage war to destroy. We wage war to protect. Killing you would not protect anyone. The Empire's ultimate weapon, the Star Destroyer Galaxy's End, began charging its main cannon. This weapon could turn entire planets into dust, and it was aimed directly at Earth. If I cannot defeat you, Admiral Korthak screamed, I will destroy your home world. But before the weapon could fire, human ships surrounded the massive vessel. They did not attack it. Instead, they began to sing. It seemed impossible, but the human ships were broadcasting music across all frequencies. The song was beautiful and sad, telling the story of Earth and its people, of their struggles and their dreams. The music had a strange effect on the Star Destroyer's crew. Many of them were species that had been conquered by the Empire generations ago. They had forgotten their own songs, their own dreams. The human music reminded them of what they had lost. Engineer Li Yo-jin revealed the secret behind the humans' most powerful weapon. Admiral Korthak, we have learned to weaponize hope itself. Our ships become stronger when our crews believe in what they are fighting for. Your ships become weaker when your crews doubt their cause. The Star Destroyer's crew began to refuse orders. They would not destroy a planet belonging to people who had shown them mercy and reminded them of beauty. Admiral Korthak found himself alone on his command bridge as his own officers walked away from their stations. The Empire's greatest weapon was defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior purpose. Throughout the galaxy, species that had been enslaved for centuries began to remember what freedom felt like. The human victory was not just military, it was spiritual. They had proven that there was a better way to live than under the Empire's rule. Captain Lim Da-un of the human ship, Star of Hope, broadcast a message that reached every corner of the galaxy. The battle is over. The Empire's fleet is defeated, but more importantly, the idea that might makes right has been proven wrong. Today begins a new age. Admiral Korthak sat alone on his disabled flagship, surrounded by human ships that could have destroyed him but chose not to. For the first time in his long life, he understood that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to choose not to. The Battle of Sol was over. The war for the galaxy's future was just beginning. Admiral Yoon Hye-jin stood in her command center, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. The human ships had arranged themselves in perfect formation around her fleet. Every time her sensors tried to scan them, the readings came back different. It was as if the human vessels were constantly changing their energy signatures. Admiral, her communications officer said, "We are receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Other species are watching this confrontation." Admiral Yoon frowned. "Watching how?" "The humans are broadcasting everything on open frequencies, ma'am. Every planet, every station, every ship in the galaxy can see what is happening here." Captain Bae Jun-seo of the Warrior's Honor was indeed transmitting to the entire galaxy. His message was simple but powerful. "People of the galaxy, for too long the Empire has told you that resistance is impossible. Today you see that they were wrong. On planets throughout the Empire, beings who had lived under Imperial rule for centuries watched their screens in amazement. The humans, who everyone thought were weak, were facing down the Empire's greatest fleet and winning." Aboard the indomitable Spirit, General Go Yun-woo studied the positions of the Empire ships. She had planned this moment for decades, and everything was going exactly as she had hoped. "Captain Park," she said, "their fleet is arranged in the standard Imperial attack formation. They have not changed their tactics in over 100 years. Captain Park nodded. "That is their weakness, General. They assume their way is the only way." General Go Yun-woo had short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had studied every Empire battle for 50 years, learning their patterns and weaknesses. "Sir, they will call for reinforcements soon. When they do, we should be ready to show them our full strength." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Shin Dong-wook was calibrating the quantum torpedo systems. These weapons were completely new, designed by human scientists who had spent decades studying captured Empire technology and improving on it. "Captain," Shin Dong-wook reported, "all weapon systems are ready. The quantum torpedoes can phase through any known shield technology." "Good," Captain Park replied. "But remember, we are not here to destroy. We are here to demonstrate that the age of Empire bullying is over." On the Empire flagship, Admiral Yoon was receiving reports from her ship captains. None of them understood the human technology, and all of them recommended retreat. "Admiral," her chief engineer said, "the human weapons that disabled the Dark Star use principles we do not understand. Our shields cannot protect us." Admiral Yoon clenched her fists. She had never retreated from a battle in her life. "What about our new plasma cannons? They are the most powerful weapons the Empire has ever built. Ma'am, we could try them, but the humans have shown they can disable our ships without harming the crews. If we attack and fail, they might not be so gentle next time. Before Admiral Yoon could respond, more human ships began appearing. These were even larger than the first group, and their designs were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Admiral Kang Hai-wan materialized on the communications screen. She was an older woman with white hair and eyes that had seen many battles. Her uniform bore symbols of the highest rank in the human military. Admiral Yoon, Admiral Kang said, "I am Admiral Kang Hai-wan, Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces. I believe it is time we had a proper conversation." Admiral Yoon stared at the human admiral. "Supreme Commander? How many ships do you have?" "Enough," Admiral Kang replied simply. "The question is not how many ships we have, but whether you are ready to listen to what we have to say." Captain Oh Sang-min appeared on another screen. His ship, the Silent Strike, had just appeared directly behind the Empire flagship without being detected. "Admiral Yoon," Captain Oh said, "my ship has been behind yours for the past hour. Your sensors never detected us. We could have destroyed your command center at any time." Admiral Yoon spun around to look at her sensor officer. "Is this true?" The sensor officer's face was pale. "Ma'am, they are correct. Our instruments show no sign that they were there. But they clearly were." Commander Ryu Mi-young of the Human Planetary Defense Forces activated massive weapon platforms that had been hidden throughout the Sol system. Suddenly, every planet and moon revealed defensive installations that dwarfed anything the Empire had ever built. "Admiral," Commander Ryu said, "you are now inside the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris has been turned into a weapons platform." Admiral Yoon looked at her tactical displays in horror. Red warning lights were appearing everywhere, as her sensors finally detected the true scope of human defenses. The Sol system was not just defended, it was a massive fortress that could destroy fleets many times larger than hers. Engineer Lee Yo-jin appeared on the communication system from what looked like a massive space station. "Admiral Yoon, I am Chief Engineer Lee Yo-jin. I want to show you something." The space around the human ships began to bend and twist. Stars that had been visible moments before disappeared while others appeared from nowhere. The human ships seemed to fade in and out of reality. "We have learned to manipulate gravity itself," Engineer Lee explained. "Our ships can exist partially outside normal space-time. Your weapons cannot hit targets that are not entirely in your dimension." Admiral Yoon felt something she had never experienced before. True fear. Her mighty fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was completely helpless against technology that seemed like magic. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Yoon asked. Admiral Kang Hae-won's expression became serious. "We want the Empire to change. We want you to stop treating other species as slaves. We want a galaxy where different peoples can work together as equals." "The Empire will never accept such terms," Admiral Yoon said. "We have ruled for 500 years. "Then your rule ends today," Captain Park said. "Not because we want to rule in your place, but because no one should rule over others." Throughout the galaxy, beings who had suffered under Empire rule began to speak up. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, workers put down their tools and refused to continue laboring for their imperial overseers. On the factory planet of Proxima Centauri, entire populations declared their independence. Admiral Yoon watched the reports flooding in from across the Empire. Rebellions were starting everywhere as people saw that the Empire could be challenged. "You have started a galactic war," Admiral Yoon said. "No," Admiral Kang replied. "We have ended one. The war against freedom has lasted for centuries. Today, freedom fights back." The human ships began moving into new positions, demonstrating coordination and tactics that the Empire had never seen. Each vessel moved with perfect precision, as if all the captains shared the same mind. Admiral Yoon realized that she was not just facing advanced technology. She was facing a completely different way of thinking about warfare, about cooperation, and about what it meant to be strong. "Admiral," her aide whispered, "what are your orders?" Admiral Yoon looked at the screen showing human ships that defied everything she understood about space combat. She thought about her orders from the Emperor to crush this human rebellion. She thought about her career and her reputation. Then, she thought about the fear in her crew's eyes and the reports of rebellion starting across the galaxy. "Send a message to High Command," she said quietly. "Tell them we need more ships. Many more ships." But even as she gave the order, Admiral Yoon knew that more ships might not be enough. The humans had shown her something that shook her to her core. They were not trying to conquer. They were trying to free, and that made them more dangerous than any enemy the Empire had ever faced. 3 days later, the space around the Sol system filled with Empire warships. Admiral Yoon Hyejin arrived aboard the massive flagship Eternal Dominion, bringing with her the most powerful fleet the Empire had ever assembled. She was known throughout the galaxy as the Iron Admiral, a leader who had never lost a battle. Admiral Yoon stood on the bridge of her ship, studying the reports about the human vessel. Her silver hair was pulled back tight and her red eyes showed no emotion. She had crushed dozens of rebellions in her long career. This would be no different. "Admiral," her aide said, "the human ship is still in the same position. It has not moved since our scout ship encountered it." "One ship against my entire fleet," Admiral Yoon said. "These humans are either very brave or very stupid." Meanwhile, aboard the indomitable Spirit, Captain Park Jin-woo walked through the corridors of his ship. The walls were lined with Korean artwork mixed with star charts showing the entire galaxy. He stopped at the science section to speak with his chief science officer. "Nam Tae-sung," Captain Park said. "Are you ready to show them what we have learned?" Nam Tae-sung looked up from his computer screens. He was a thin man with intelligent eyes who had spent his life studying alien technology. "Captain, our upgrades are complete. The Empire ships are using the same technology they had 50 years ago. We have moved far beyond that." Captain Park nodded. "How far beyond?" "Our shields can absorb their strongest weapons and turn that energy into power for our own systems. Our weapons can pierce their armor like it was paper. Most importantly, our engines can take us places they cannot follow." In another part of the ship, Commander Jang Yuna was briefing her intelligence team. The room was filled with screens showing Empire ship movements and communications. Jang Yuna had been planning this moment for 20 years. "Listen carefully," she told her team. "Operation Hidden Dragon is now active. For 300 years, Earth has pretended to be weak while we built the strongest fleet in the galaxy. Today, the pretending stops." One of her officers raised his hand. "Commander, what about the humans working on Empire ships? Like Lee Daeho on the Dominion's edge?" "They are our eyes and ears," Jang Yuna replied. "They have been sending us information about Empire technology and tactics for decades. Without them, this plan would not have been possible." Back on the bridge, Captain Park received a communication from the Empire flagship. Admiral Yoon's face appeared on his screen. Her expression was cold and threatening. "Human Captain," Admiral Yoon said, "I am Admiral Yoon Hee-jin of the Galactic Empire. You will surrender your vessel immediately for inspection. Resistance will result in your destruction." Captain Park looked at her calmly. "Admiral, I am Captain Park Jin-woo. We respectfully decline your demand." Admiral Yoon's eyes narrowed. "You decline? You are one ship facing my entire fleet. Surrender now, and your crew will be allowed to live." "Admiral," Captain Park said, 300 years ago, your empire came to Earth. You offered us membership in your galactic civilization. We saw how you treated other species as slaves and servants. We declined then just as we decline now. Your refusal then was tolerated because you were weak," Admiral Yoon replied. "You are still weak." "One ship cannot stand against the might of the Empire," Captain Park smiled. "You assume we are one ship, Admiral. You assume incorrectly." Suddenly, the space around the Empire fleet began to shimmer. Ships appeared out of nowhere, materializing from what seemed like empty space. Dozens of human vessels uncloaked simultaneously, surrounding the Empire fleet. Admiral Yoon stepped back from her screen in shock. "Impossible. Our sensors showed nothing." "Your sensors show what we want them to show," Captain Park explained. "We have been studying your technology for centuries. We know its weaknesses better than you do. The human ships were all different sizes and designs, but they shared the same sleek, advanced appearance as the indomitable Spirit. Names were visible on their hulls: Soul's Vengeance, Tiger of Tegu, Phoenix Rising, and dozens of others. On the bridge of the cruiser Warrior's Honor, Captain Baejun Seo opened communications to all Empire ships. His voice was broadcast across every frequency the Empire used. "Attention, Empire forces," Captain Bae said. "This is the Human Defense Fleet. For 300 years you have treated my people as inferior. You have dismissed us as primitive and weak. Today we prove you wrong." Admiral Yoon quickly opened a private channel to her fleet commanders, all ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage the human vessels. Admiral, her tactical officer said. The humans are using shield technology we do not recognize. Their energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. On the human flagship, Chief Engineer Kim Sora was monitoring the Empire ship's reactions. Captain, she reported, their weapons are powering up. They are preparing to attack. Are our defenses ready? Captain Park asked. More than ready, sir. Our quantum shields are active. Their weapons will not even scratch our hulls. Captain Park opened communications to Admiral Yoon again. Admiral, I suggest you reconsider your next action. Your weapons cannot harm us, but ours can destroy your entire fleet in minutes. You are bluffing. Human, Admiral Yoon said, but her voice showed doubt for the first time. Lieutenant Shin Dong-wook, Captain Park called to his weapons officer. Please demonstrate our capabilities. Target the Empire cruiser Dark Star. Disable their engines only. Do not harm the crew. Shin Dong-wook was young but highly trained. His fingers moved over controls that seemed to respond to his thoughts. Quantum torpedoes armed, Captain. Targeting their engine core. A beam of light shot from the indomitable spirit. It passed through the Dark Star's shields as if they were not there and struck the engine section. The Empire ship immediately lost power and began drifting. Admiral Yoon watched in disbelief as her cruiser was disabled in seconds. The torpedo had passed through their best shields without slowing down. How? She whispered. Phase technology, Captain Park explained. Our weapons exist partially outside normal space. Your shields cannot stop them because they are not entirely in the same dimension. General Go Yun-woo, the human fleet's chief strategist, appeared on a secondary screen. Admiral Yoon, this demonstration shows you our capabilities. We could have destroyed that ship and everyone on it. Instead, we disabled it without killing anyone. This is the difference between humans and the Empire. Admiral Yoon realized she was facing something completely unexpected. These were not the primitive humans the Empire had encountered centuries ago. These were warriors with technology that made the Empire's greatest weapons look like ancient tools. What do you want? Admiral Yoon asked. To be left alone, Captain Park replied. And for the Empire to stop bullying other species who cannot defend themselves. The Empire will never accept this challenge, Admiral Yoon said. Then the Empire will fall, Captain Park said simply. Not because we want to conquer anyone, but because freedom always defeats tyranny in the end. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Yoon staring at screens showing human ships that should not exist. She knew she had to call for more reinforcements. Many more. The alarm bells rang through the massive Empire ship Dominion's edge. Captain Thalvek moved his forearms quickly as he read the reports coming to his command chair. His blue skin turned darker with worry. Something was wrong in the Sol system. Captain, said his second officer, we are getting strange readings from the Forbidden Zone. Captain Thalvek looked at the screens. The Sol system had been marked as off-limits for 300 years. The humans who lived there were too primitive to join the Galactic Empire. They had been told to stay in their small corner of space and not bother the real civilizations. Lieutenant Commander Lee Dae-ho sat at his station monitoring the sensors. He was one of the few humans allowed to work on Empire ships. Most aliens thought humans were weak and stupid. Lee Dae-ho had worked hard for 10 years to prove he was useful. Even so, most of the crew treated him like a servant. Sir, Lee Dae-ho said to the captain, I am seeing energy readings that do not make sense. Captain Thalvek walked over to Lee Dae-ho's station. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. What kind of readings, human? Lee Dae-ho pointed at his screen. The energy signature is huge, sir. Much bigger than our largest ships. But it is coming from the Sol system. That is impossible, Captain Thalvek said. Humans do not have ships that big. They barely have ships that can leave their home planet. Suddenly, space in front of them began to change. A bright light appeared, and the fabric of space seemed to tear open. Lee Dae-ho watched in amazement as something massive came through the opening. It was a ship, but unlike anything Lee Dae-ho had ever seen. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Dominion's edge. Its hull was sleek and dark with strange writing on the sides. Lee Dae-ho's heart began to beat faster as he recognized some of the symbols. They were Korean characters mixed with English letters. Captain, the communications officer called out. The ship is hailing us. Put it on screen, Captain Thalvek ordered. The main screen flickered and a face appeared. It was clearly human, with dark hair and calm eyes. The man wore a uniform that looked both familiar and completely foreign to Lee Dae-ho. "This is Captain Park Jin-woo of the Earth vessel Indomitable Spirit," the human said in perfect galactic standard language. "You are in our territory." Captain Thalvik's mouth fell open. No human was supposed to speak galactic standard so well, and no human ship was supposed to be that advanced. "This is Captain Thalvik of the Galactic Empire ship Dominion's Edge. You are mistaken, human. This space belongs to the Empire. Your people were ordered to stay in your home system." Captain Park smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Our people have been watching your empire for a long time, Captain. We know exactly where we are allowed to go. This is not Empire space anymore." Behind Captain Park, Lee Dae-ho could see other humans working at advanced control stations. A woman with short black hair was studying readings on multiple screens. Her uniform had symbols that marked her as an engineer. A younger man sat at what looked like a weapons station, his hands moving over controls that seemed to glow with their own light. "Kim Sora," Captain Park said to the woman, "show them our engine specifications." The woman called Kim Sora nodded and pressed several buttons. Suddenly, the Indomitable Spirit began to glow with energy. Lee Dae-ho watched his sensors go crazy as power readings climbed higher and higher. "Captain," Lee Dae-ho whispered to Thalvik, "their power output is impossible. Our best ships cannot produce that much energy." Captain Thalvik stepped closer to the screen. "What do you want, human?" "We want to be left alone," Captain Park said. "But we also want the Empire to know that the time of pushing around weaker species is over. Earth has been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. The young man at the weapons station looked up. "Captain Park, should I power up the quantum arrays?" "Not yet, Choi Min-ho," Captain Park replied. "Let them see what we have first." Lee Dae-ho felt his hands shake as he read the new energy signatures. Quantum arrays were theoretical weapons that the Empire's best scientists said were impossible to build. Yet this human ship seemed to have them. "Captain Thalvik," Captain Park continued, "you should call your superiors. Tell them that Earth is no longer hiding. Tell them that humans are ready to take our place in the galaxy. Your place was decided long ago, human," Captain Thalvik said, his voice getting angry. "You are a primitive species. You have nothing we want or need." Captain Park's expression became serious. "That is where you are wrong, Captain. We have something you need very much." "What could humans possibly have that the Empire needs?" "Hope," Captain Park said simply. "Hope for a galaxy where might does not make right. Hope for a future where different species can work together instead of one ruling over all others." Captain Thalvik laughed, a harsh sound. "Hope does not win wars, human." "You are right," Captain Park agreed. "Hope does not win wars, but advanced technology, superior tactics, and the will to fight for freedom do win wars. And we have all 3. The screen went dark as Captain Park ended the communication. Captain Thalvik stood staring at the empty screen while Lee Dae-ho continued to monitor the massive human ship. "Sir," Lee Dae-ho said quietly, "what should we do?" Captain Thalvik was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to High Command. Priority 1. Tell them we have encountered an unknown human vessel with advanced technology. Request immediate reinforcements." Lee Dae-ho watched the Indomitable Spirit through the sensors. The ship was not moving away or powering down its weapons. It was waiting like a predator that knew its prey had nowhere to run. For the first time in his life, Lee Dae-ho felt proud to be human. He also felt afraid for what was coming next. The Empire had never met resistance they could not crush. But as he looked at the readings from the human ship, he wondered if that was about to change. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were much more than they appeared to be.